Doing good. Got some heavy news that nobody's tackling in the world here at the Post-Ignorance Project. First off, we're going to talk about nuclear disasters and the history of cover-up nuclear disasters. But first and foremost, we're going to talk about the G20 is in Japan for the first time ever. And they announced yesterday they're creating a symposium to get rid of the nuclear waste of the world. I wonder what nuclear waste they're talking about. And Utah, Idaho, Texas, and the Trump administration is declassified. Guess who's jockeying for position to take the Fukushima waste? Oh yeah, do not kid yourself. You got me as the resistance. Right here in Utah, Idaho, and Texas. First, before we get going, I want to talk about the university here, and I want to say to the janitors at Weber State win the national award for the cleanest university. The landscapers win the award 9 years in a row. The best, most beautiful, landscaped, well-kept campus in the United States. I want to say thank you to them all, which a lot of them are friends of mine. They're the lowest paid people on the campus. Besides probably Manuel and myself, you know, we're on the campus. We get paid negative. Negative. You heard me, negative. We're under the pyramid. But anyway, I want to say thank you to them all. This place is pristine. This place, every time I walk through it, I mean, it takes my breath away. It is a beautiful, it's set in the most beautiful place. It's so well kept. They work so hard at it. You know, I was just talking to Dave, who I grew up with, lifelong landscape crew here.
We have a beautiful university.
It's great. And you know, we don't talk about our janitors.
Very clean.
Oh, the janitors here. I went to high school with Joe.
Outstanding.
They're fantastic.
They're fantastic.
And, you know, they need to be, I give them a raise, by the way, or give them an award of some sort. Oh, no, God forbid on that. But, so, then we're going to talk about the history of nuclear disasters and the cover-up in this world of ours. And then we'll get into the nuclear waste. This is important subject matter. Now, you got keyboard. You know, Google, Wikipedia's got some pretty good pages up on the history of nuclear disasters in the world, you know, and so we'll start off like this. This is important for students and young people, well, anybody, you know. I'm a self-education guy. I knew Aaron Swartz personally. You know, Reddit, Hijack, they don't get it. But Aaron Swartz was a gem. Self-educate through the internet. He was the god. He was a 14-year-old kid. They hung him. I knew him personally. I have enough degrees at this university to probably have 15 master's degrees, Ph.D s. You know, I've only ever applied for 2 degrees here. I could probably apply today and probably get 12. You know, I have that many. You know, but I'm a believer in broad-based education. I believe in university. I believe in going for the right reasons, not for a piece of paper, not for a degree. And a broad, you know, I was a BSI student, but. So let's get right to nuclear disasters. And I'm going to starting off this show. Oh, one other thing on the university. This is important. So we're going to be doing the play-by-play at the football and the basketball. I don't know if Manuel knows this. Guess where we open? On August 31st. We got to get our passes and whatnot. Guess where Weber State opens? Guess where the season opens?
When?
August 31st, San Diego State.
Ooh.
So we'll be there. We'll do the play-by-play from San Diego State because I'll probably be there anyway. And I know that stadium and I know that university so well, and you know, and
So cool.
and so it'll be. I call it the San Onofre Bowl, and then we come home. We play Cal Poly, where Diablo can. The Diablo can. It'll be good. I've been talking to a lot of young athletes. We have a lot of good local football players here now, and we have one. You know, we have a local basketball player from really high, you know. I talked to him. So, and they're going to be good this year. So that's out of the way. Let's get right back to nuclear disasters. So where was the first nuclear disaster? First off, HBO documentary, which is a gem. Oh. Bravo, magnifico.
Thanks to HBO.
Yeah, so one of the actors did an interview yesterday or the day before talking about his uncle had died from fallout from Sellafield, and we'll talk about Sellafield, and you know how the Beatles wrote about that. It's all I can do to keep waiting for you. That's the Cars. Benjamin Orr died so tragically. of this disease that I have in my body fighting. And so the first real major nuclear disaster, of course, was the bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that cover up, but as a nuclear reactor. Let's talk nuclear energy disasters. We'll talk also, because nuclear bomb factories, plutonium factories, nuclear reactors are nuclear bomb factories, period. Where do you think they get the waste for these bombs? MOX fuel number 3. Where was the first accident, class? Kids, can you tell me? Can anybody tell me where the first nuclear accident was in the world at a nuclear reactor? Right here. Idaho National Lab, 1955. Where's the first nuclear reactor on Earth? Right here. Idaho National Lab.
Oh, wow.
You can go up, they have tours in it. They've taken it brick by brick and just moved it across on the Shoshone. Res, the Blackford, oh yeah, it's right there. So they lied about it. It was a partial core meltdown, a bad one. So Chernobyl, the worst nuclear accident ever, people are still spewing that nonsense, and it was bad. Chernobyl's not even the worst nuclear disaster in Russia. It's not. It's second. Now, let's caveat this. The IAEA is responsible for grading a nuclear disaster. So the two worst nuclear disasters in there, according to them, are Chernobyl and Fukushima now. They're both classified as a 7. The worst one before that was classified as a 5. 7? They're only 7s? Now I want you to pause and I want you to think about this. Who sets a scale from 1 to 7? Oh, they did. The nuclear industry. 7's the maximum. Now you don't think that's malice from inception. Any logic goes all the way back to the farthest, societies in human history. Always use 10 fingers, 10 toes, 10. Why would they set that to deceive? That's called malice, to deceive. Now we know in the penal system in this country of ours, we consider malice to be the worst when we start to punish people, right? Well, in the old penal system of the United States before the Patriot Act, that means you intentionally, you think it out, you plot it, which is the worst crimes. And then you get the death penalty for that here in Utah, Gary Gilmore. It's called malice, premeditated. So the nuclear industry, by setting a scale from 1 to 7, that's premeditation from inception. They were plotting all this from the beginning. So the first disaster in Idaho, Arco, right up the road, who this university has so many ties with. By the way, the little town there where the INL's called Pingree. Where's the Pingree family? Pingree Avenue, Ogden, Utah, the bankers. Oh yeah, that's them. So the worst accident in so-called Russia, the old Soviet Union. They had lots of them. We've had lots of them in the United States. Many. So the worst one, now this is a really great piece for you guys to look up. It'll educate you a lot. Ted Koppel. Ted Koppel was ABC Nightline. What happened in 1979, after the evening news, Ted Koppel started doing a piece on Iran when the hostages were taken in '79. It was so successful, the hostage situation, day 1, day 2, which ties to Ogden, Utah. Brent Scowcroft's from here, this university, the National Security Advisor, the Browning Arms dealers, blah, 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 blah. So much here. But they kept Nightline. Ted Koppel was a gem. I think he's still alive. So you can look up the Nightline documentary, who was the first real serious in-depth report in the United States about Chernobyl in 1986. Just Google it on YouTube. So Koppel gets 2 experts, so-called, on one. There was the concerned scientist, which they're still around. I know a lot of those guys. He's dead, the one that was on there, now Dixon. And they were talking about 3 Mile Island. Then they had the counter. Where from? Same old Samo. Lawrence Livermore National Lab, which I protested there so much then, and he was panty painting then. You can watch it, but Koppel gets into it, and he says, well, for the state-run media to come out tonight and see 4 little lines in the state-run media in the Soviet Union admitting to there's a catastrophe probably means there is a major catastrophe. Well, let's think about the United States. Do you don't think the United States has state-run media? Well, the Patriot, I know for a fact they do. I've been told this by multiple producers. I've been interviewed so many times you don't even want to know. By PBS, by ABC, I mean, you name it, especially in their days, I got interviewed. Why do my interviews never go up? I'm very cordial, I'm very good. Well, I've been told. The Patriot Act, Fukushima got classified. Barbara Boxer's office told me that. Her office was head of the committee at the time, the Environmental Committee. So, from what I've been told in San Diego, because I do so much work and I'm interviewed so much at San Diego and on Los Angeles television, my voice appears down there. ZART, my voice appears, but I'm like, what the? So one of my friends, who I'm friends with, Mike Levin, who's the new congressman at District 49 in San Onofre, who ran on the Get Rid of the Nuclear Waste platform. He's a gem, by the way, in San Clemente. That's District 49. I call them the new 49ers. They're not panning for gold. They're panning for nuclear waste contracts. That's where the sugar wars, molasses wars, textile wars, plutonium wars. A lot of money in nuclear waste. So you can watch that and it'll teach you a lot. And the narrative that came out on Fukushima, how can you watch the Chernobyl documentary and not connect these dots with Fukushima? The United States really is the same apparatus as the Soviet Union. State-controlled media, which it is, don't kid yourself. So my friend who's a reporter, Barbie I call her, in San Diego, I'm friends with her. So she told me a long time, she says, Kevin, we get a memo every single Monday on what we can't and cannot talk about. And Fukushima's on top. We cannot talk about it. Really? And you don't? What are they going to do to you? Now, you see any United States senators or congressmen? I've asked them on this campus. I've asked Senator Wyden in his face. I've asked Senator Mike Lee in his face. I've asked every politician in the state of Utah. It's on, a lot of it's on YouTube. I've asked presidential candidates. I've asked the President of the United States to his face. I've asked both presidents. I didn't get close enough to Obama. He changed the route on me when I was protesting to ask him, but I got close enough to Trump when he was running. And I asked him, you can talk about Fukushima, Trump? I'm screaming. It made Fox News. He nodded his head. They don't talk about it. They don't say a word. Yet Abe's with him constantly. You know, for a Japanese PM to come to the United States is a major story, one time in 40 years. And that was Abe, you know, this puppet who got reelected again, special election. How's that even possible? I mean, that's not a president. That's a emperor, right? Just like Putin. That's not a president. How long has he been president? That's called a czar. Now Trump, there's videos out there saying he's not going to leave after his second term. I got nerve. He ain't making no second term. They can put up a glass of water to beat him as long as it isn't named Hillary Clinton. The only reason he won is because Hillary Clinton ran. The election was stolen by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Trump. All three of those. They stole the election from Bernie Sanders. That's who they stole the election. I voted here. And why did I vote for Bernie? Because Bernie's the only one that says pull the cord on nuclear energy. He still says it. He's an old street activist. You know, and that's my number one issue. I don't, you know, the rest of it you can go off and shiny about God's gay's gun, God's gay's gun. And that's another thing I want to address today. I want to talk about how people are self-identifying themselves by race or sexuality. Everyone has the right to be themselves. We are all God's children. But how we've turned, you know, I remember the Stonewall days. Those guys were environmentalists. So now we're trying to group ourselves so that we can be marketed, I guess. Oh, we're by our sexuality. I'm gay, I'm straight, or I'm black, I'm white. It should be we don't care. It's nobody's business. We're all in this together, and we need to think that way. We cannot group. So let's talk back to nuclear disasters and the nuclear waste. So, what's the worst nuclear disaster in the United States? 3 Mile Island? Not even close. Idaho's had 2 of them. Major one in 1955. Another one in 1961 at Lionel. The same little reactor, new scale from hell, they're trying to bring here in Utah. Our state legislature is funding these little reactors at Oregon Company to test them in Idaho. Utah taxpayers paying for this. And nobody's resisting. What? For real. I'm down there protesting. So now they bail out Energy Solutions dump site. We don't make nuclear waste here. New York's bailed out the nuclear industry. New Jersey's bailed them out. Connecticut's bailed them out. Ohio's bailed them out. Illinois has bailed them out. Pennsylvania's working on it. You know, 3 Mile Island. By the way, 3 Mile Island, 9 Mile Island in New York's worse than 3 Mile Island. You know, those reactors in New York are the worst. The worst. You know, and I'm not just talking about Indian Point. 9 Mile Island, and they were done. They were closed. They were over. Status King Quomor, $7.6 billion. Here you go, without even going to the public vote. They don't have to. the nuclear industry, as I call the untouchables. So the worst disaster in Russia is not Chernobyl, and Chernobyl's all that. I mean, that documentary's on it. It's called Mayak, which happened in 1957. 1957, it was their plutonium test facility for their bomb factory, which was a reactor. Nuclear reactors are bomb factories. Fukushima was full of MOX fuel in number 3. What's MOX fuel? From Savannah River, South Carolina. That's the MOX fuel plant. They're Riva. Chicago Bridge and our Westinghouse fairy tale. $29 billion later, we're going to take fuel and turn it into more fuel, which is a lie. I always say it like this. You're in Europe. You're standing on this side of the river, wee, nuclear energy. You go to that side of the river, 99999. Well, who pays the price? Da-da-da-da. They paid the price in Ukraine, Chernobyl. But Mayak, so I'm friends with one of the great oncologists. She's famous, was over there. Putin about, this is post-Fukushima, started killing anti-nuclear activists, energy and anti-nuclear bomb activists. That's right, killing them. They do it in India. They kill them. Oh, you don't think they do that here? Who's Karen Silkwood? Let's see. Her attorney lived here. Huh. So, by the way, we have one of those factories right behind my house, the same one she worked at. Western Zirconium. What do you think they do? You know, the untouchables, they call them. So that was the worst disaster in Russia, and it's bad. It's still bad. You remember when all the antelope dropped dead in 2012? Half the population? That's where it happened. Where the deer and the antelope used to play. Who covered it up? The United States. Who made the decision to cover it up in the United States? Eisenhower. It's a fact. So, shortly right after that, the same type of accident happened here in Los Angeles. Santa Susana, Rocketdyne, Simi Valley. Oh, similar to the one in Idaho? Very similar to the reaction. The same reactor they're trying to build here, new scale from here, the same type of little reactor, this different, which is nothing but a little pig with lipstick on it. Same waste, same thing. There's no secret nuclear reactor. There's no salt reactor. There's no thorium reactor. They're none. They're just little pigs of the same thing. No, they're a sham to make people rich. Energy we do not use. An old, tired, outdated, the biggest mistake in human history, not my words, Einstein's words, which still ring true today. Not my words, Oppenheimer's words. Not my way, Andrei Sakharov's words. Who's that? Tsar Bomba. That's the worst accident in Russian history. The gift that keeps on. How about 350 open-air tests in Nevada? Let's go to Moab. Yay. They don't tell you. Shh. If you don't think Southern Utah might be one of the cancer capitals of the world, definitely is the United States. Downwinders, I'm in the bone marrow transplanted LDS fighting for my life. Off and on, I was in there for years. From 2011, I went in on 11/11/11. And Utah makes up, what, maybe Southern Utah, 5% of the state's population. Any given day, I take you in there right now today. Well over half the people in there are from Southern Utah. We call it the red dust down there. Shh, don't tell the tourists. Just like the desal plant in San Diego, or the new one they're putting up in Monterey. Oh, what are you testing for? I call it the Farrah Fawcett. You know, the ocean's freaking collapsing from the Fukushima disaster being pushed in. Are you testing for tritium? Are you testing for cesium? Are you testing for iodine? Are you testing for plutonium? How about fuktonium, as I call it? No. Well, fish can't live in it. Tide pools are dead. But we can drink it. We can bathe in it. We can drink our beer renaissance. Go team! Aztecs versus Wildcats. Okay. So, we've had so many, just Google it. We go down the list. Here, see if I got this list today. I've been so busy today, dealing with so many things. Let's see, I thought I printed it up. Let's see if I did. And let's start going over some of these disasters. Yeah, there's a list of them. Yeah. There's the Mayak disaster. There's the Simi Valley, Rocketdyne. Let's see if we can get over here and see what the IEA, that's the International Community invented. Now remember in Vienna, Stalin, Stalin, Franklin Roosevelt, and Churchill dividing up the world in 1945, in February of 1945. No royals, no monarchies. It was called the Atlantic Conference, was the original UN, in Vienna. No monarchies. That's the rules. Churchill was having a fit about it. Well, you're flying right in the face of jolly old Mother England. Yeah, done. Churchill to Franklin Roosevelt, if I don't go along with you, we're going to go down the same way our cousins went in Russia. The czars, all of the monarchs, we're going to follow just like they did in Europe, our cousins. So we have to go along with you. He didn't want to. He didn't want to. Stalin. They divide up the world. Wallace is going to be the next president, the socialist, 3 terms. Franklin Roosevelt has a bad heart, Dr. Bruin. The conference, they find Truman, who reminds me a lot of Trump, by the way. Truman, 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 Dorothy Day. Wallace would never drop the bombs. It would never happen. Oppenheimer didn't want to drop them. The war was over. That was just a flex at Stalin. They overrode FDR. Remember when the bombs dropped, FDR was dead. He dropped dead on April 12, 1945, right after Yalta by the Sea. Stalin's first words, and he would know, wouldn't he? The Russian poisoners? Stalin's first words. What did Churchill use to poison him? So, they dropped the bombs. They wanted to drop 3. Oppenheimer was a gas. Everybody. Hoover, everybody. The Cold War was born. Weapons testing earnest. Russia didn't have it yet. And the United States went on their arrogance. You know, went over Utah. The Enola Gay. I put up my skins. Those paintings have been in the Enola Gay hangar. So they rank those as zeros, huh? All zeros. There's a 2. You know, so... Fox in charge of chickens. Fox in charge of Fox that killed chickens. That's the IAEA. So the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Association, completely took over the UN in the 1950s. Same with Congress. A congressional act went through here called Price-Anders. These guys are slick willies, politicians. They've been doing this for years. They got national, worldwide subsidies through the IAEA, which they still do. Price-Anderson through the federal government. Now they're going to state houses and getting bailouts. Local bailouts. Next they're going to have a bake sale to your local PTA. It's free money. There's no liability. You can't sue them. There's been lots of meltdowns. How about Sheffield in the UK? Real bad one. Now remember, let's talk some music. John Lennon was an anti-nuclear energy guy. John Lennon was the most famous activist in the world. John Lennon was the most famous peace fighter. Now let's think about this. Yoko Ono, she come from Japan. Her father, the banker, through San Francisco to New York, related to the royal family. Oh yeah, the Chrysanthemum royal family, the oldest monarchy on earth. She's dead, direct bloodlines, Yoko. Let It Be, the song. I always go back to that song. Sir Paul, Sir Paul, Sir Paul. Now remember, our favorite Beatle, George Harrison, died so young of, as my guitar gently weeps, died so young. How are we doing on this clock? This camera has a mind of its own. We don't want to lose this content. So, let me start this.